Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now today, guys, we're going to look at something which is absolutely exciting. I think it's such a good idea for PvP and PvE, and I'm probably going to get quite a bit of hate about this, so we're going to jump straight into the video, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all that good stuff like we normally do, and just what does this actually mean for you? So you're probably going, what on earth is he on about? Well, ZOS has recently updated the PTS, which is a public test server. You can only access it on PC, sadly. But basically, this is where they test stuff, and they don't normally do this. So this is a really new thing, and I hope that this is something they do going forward, because changing things now and again kind of between patches seems the right way of kind of updating the game. And what they decided to do this time is kind of listen to all the people moaning. Everybody in PvE, and from what I've spoken to, they moan about having to use, sustain food or sustain glyph or sustain race, and PvP is exactly the same. Going, actually, why am I having to build sustain where pre-Morrowind I could sustain without kind of having to factor in loads of glyphs and all this sort of other stuff? It just got really complicated after Morrowind. And so they've kind of listened to that, and they've also looked at kind of the skill level between those top tier players like Outcast, Lyco, Is There No One Else, those high level people that know what they're doing in PvE and PvP. And also looked at kind of Average Joe, and well, Average Joe, he's not a great player, sadly, he's a bit of a casual. And what they've done is said that actually, those top tier players, they have more actions per minute, and those lower tier players have less actions per minute. Why is that? And they've basically said that actually that's light attack weaving. In PvE, those people who light attack weave see a bigger DPS boost, anywhere from sort of 8 to 12, maybe 13k. If you don't light attack weave, that's quite a lot of DPS lost, actually. And in PvP, it's a similar sort of mantra as well, that if you're light attack weaving, you're getting bonus damage, which could help you get a kill. So they've kind of said, well, Average Joe, he's struggling here, he needs help. And Outcast, those top guys, they're doing pretty good. And people moan about sustain. So they decided to make light attacks give you magicka back or stamina back if you use them. So rather than having to read this whole post, which is interesting, and I will put a link in the description, I'm going to kind of just summarize the kind of the key things for you to take away and look at it on the PTS server. Okay? So, key thing, light attacks now give you sustain back. So every light attack will give you 200 magicka or stamina back depending on what you use. Werewolves give you slightly more. If you use light attacks in a row, you get obviously more and more resource back per light attack. If you put a skill in the middle, you get it resets that timer, okay? There's no buff icon yet to manage it, so it can be a bit frustrating. And the big one is heavy attacks no longer restore resources. So your heavy attacks are now designed for damage. If you're trying to damage a target, use a heavy attack or a skill, which makes a lot more sense. Why would I use a light attack, which is kind of like a little poke? A poke in the bear kind of thing. For damage, it's not going to do much. And so the light attacks are more of a sustain tool rather than heavy attacks, which makes so much more sense. You can weave them easier. They've also kind of decreased the damage of light attacks drastically. They've increased the damage of heavy attacks drastically. And they've also changed the kind of heavy attack animation so they're a little bit quicker than they were before. And they've changed obviously a lot of sets that had light attack or heavy attack amplifiers and buffs to kind of reflect these new changes, okay? So we're going to quickly jump on the PTS now, look at the changes, go through kind of what the difference is so you know what to expect in the next patch should this go live. And as we know with these things do change. So yeah. And before we do that, if you haven't guessed it, this channel is all about helping you get better with next level builds, guides and gameplay. So why not start today by subscribing and turn on the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's jump into the PTS. So we're on the PTS, guys, and you're probably going, he's got a console, he's a console player. And no, I'm not, okay? If you go into my inventory, I've got all my access, got a stupid amount of stuff. All the PTS items are here, gold, you get the idea. This is the PTS. This is recorded on the 23rd of March 2020, so if you watch it in the future, this is how it was. It might have changed, it might not have changed, you get the idea. So what can I kind of expect? Well, if I buff with a major sorcery, I'm using my Archmage build. There's a PvP sorcerer, it's on the channel, it's an absolute crazy build, do check it out. But basically, when I light attack with that build, I get kind of 1500, give or take, maybe a little bit more on my light attack. If it crits, could go over 2k on a light attack, so it's pretty decent. And that's kind of fully buff. My light attack now, and I've got 889. You're going, oh my goodness, this is absolutely terrible. 949 with a weapon damage glyph, like a berserk glyph active. So you're going, well, that's like a 70% damage reduction. And yes, it is. It's a 70% damage reduction on your light attacks. So those people who light attack parse, you're going to see about 70% less damage on your light attack kind of DPS. So I did a DPS parse earlier on a Stampler, and this was kind of before these changes, and I got 80k DPS with just one skill and light attacks. The light attacks accounted for 10,000 damage in that pass, so I'm kind of only going to get about 3,000 damage. So I'm losing 7,000 DPS there. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. That's on a trial dummy. But I can build my character differently, and that's where the change is kind of interesting for me as a kind of theory crafter, PvP player, PvE player. I can go to my glyphs. I can kind of have more spell damage, less recovery. I can change my food, have less recovery. I can change my set in PvP, have more damage. So instead of having to kind of build loads and loads of sustain into my kit, I don't have to as much anymore, because I can go light attack, 200 magicka, 200 magicka, 200 magicka, 200 magicka. Magicka sustain, stamina sustain on your character sheet is kind of every 2 seconds, so I get that 1900 every 2 seconds. I can do 2 light attacks every 2 seconds, which means I get 400 extra magicka back, which isn't on my character sheet. So you've basically got a 400 sort of sustain buff, which is absolutely crazy. So those people going, oh, I hated kind of the changes after Morrowind, this will really help those people. You will also find that the heavy attacks are very different too. So in the past, if I did a heavy attack, I might get 5,000 to maybe 8k if I'm lucky, and that's like if I'm lucky. And that's obviously in PvP, and PvE could be a little bit more, but it's not massive. If I heavy attack now, 18k. Do you mean it's like, what? 20k there. There's a big difference in heavy attacks, and they're significantly faster. So they're kind of about every 2 seconds now. So I can kind of just literally heavy attack. This could be my rotation. I'm going to push not great DPS, but it's going to be better than it was before. So in PvE, you can do things like this which you couldn't do before. You could go buff up, heavy attack, push a skill, let the skill fire, heavy attack, push another skill, let the heavy attack fire, push another skill, let the heavy attack fire. So you can basically layer your dots, your damage over times, and just heavy attack, and you'll get respectable DPS. It's not going to be up there with Outcast, with Lyco, those top tier DPS people in PvE, but it will still be good enough to get through most, if not all, of the content in this game to an acceptable level, which for me, that's a really good change. And for those people in PvP, you've just been given 400 magicka regen and stamina regen. This is absolutely bonkers, it's nuts. Now the other change that they have added is that when you do a kind of medium wave attack, it doesn't set people off balance anymore and kind of stun them like it did before. So before I could go dizzy swing, medium wave, stun. I can't do it, I have to do a fully charged heavy attack now to get that stun. So there is a slight delay in that combat, but the heavy attack does hit significantly hard. And this is on a magicka build. I mean for 11k on a magicka build with a 2H. It's absolutely like stupid. And there's no buffs on or anything. So there is kind of a it doesn't stun as easily. So when I do my dizzy and swing into kind of a heavy attack to stun, you'll see the dizzy and swing hits a little bit. The heavy attack hits really hard for that stun. So you'll find that it's still worth doing dizzy and swing, but do a fully charged heavy attack. It's about 30-40% slower than it was, but the heavy attack hits as hard as dizzy and swing, so why wouldn't you do it? So that's kind of the big change there with dizzy and swing and kind of medium weaving and how that works with off balance and so on. And what does this mean for bash weaving? Well, it's better than light attack. You get more damage from it, as you can see. So if you can bash weave, you'll get more damage. If you're a stamina character, if you're a magicka character, you're kind of out of luck, but you got more sustain. And as I said, it's only kind of be about anyway 3 to 7k DPS loss, so it's not a drastic deal. And you can chuck in the heavy attacks anyway, so I wouldn't stress. So this will really help you kind of change how you build your character. So all in all, what you'll find is that the ceiling and the floor have been kind of squished together. So those people are kind of like average Joe, poor average Joe, so bless him. He might be struggling to light attack weave. He now has a new option. Keep his buffs on, heavy attack, skill, heavy attack, skill, and it will get good DPS. It will not be there with the top tier DPS people because they can still light attack weave and get more sustain in their kind of rotation, thus allowing them to push more damage through weapon glyphs and so on. And for those people who are really unsure, light attack weaving is still a thing, okay? So light attack, skill, 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 you get the idea. If you spam it too fast like you do normally, you will end up locking up, so just don't spam it too fast or you end up locking up. and it works with all skills. So light attack skill, light attack skill, light attack skill, light attack skill, you get the idea. So light attack weaving is still a thing in this game. Those top tier PvP, PvE players can still use it for damage, but they can also get sustain from it. And that's the main thing from this video, that actually these changes, they are not as bad as people keep claiming them to be. You will see a 70% damage reduction nerf in your light attack part of your DPS rotation. So you can see like a 5 to 7k DPS nerf, but you then can build differently, so you get some of that DPS back. So it's not going to be a massive damage reduction for those top tier players. All it means is average Joe is now better than he was before. So when you do a pug group, you do a random dungeon, you're not going to have loads of numpties anymore. You're actually going to have people that can kill stuff, which when I've played as a tank, oh my goodness, that is stressful. Sitting there going, I'm having to light attack this thing because my DPS have died because they haven't killed it. That I can actually now rely on them, just say, look, slot a heavy attack rotation and you'll be fine. And so yeah, that's the big thing from this takeaway. And before I forget, people go, oh, what about special weapons? Maelstrom staff, those weapons that have like elegant with a percentage boost and so on. They've all been reworked, as I've said before. So now you can actually use them with your kind of rotations and so on. So I'm gonna put the wall of elements down. Heavy attack, 12,000. I was getting 10,000 before. So all I literally get is basically that 1,341 there on my heavy attack. So just to show you, heavy attack, 10,000. You can see it's like it's just added on. It's not a big change anymore. It doesn't multiply like it did before and all that crazy complicated stuff. So all in all, it's quite a good change in my opinion. I think that this could really help people in PvE, those kind of average Joes, casuals, bring them up a bit, but those top tier players are still going to be better DPS passers because they light attack weave, they can build differently, they can sustain easier. So there's still going to be that skill level, it just won't be as large, but it also allows you to build differently as well. So that's kind of what I want you to take away from this video, is that this is probably a better change for the long run. More people are going to benefit from this, fewer people are going to see drawback. For the masses, it's a better change. And so I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. So if you did enjoy this kind of video, obviously like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We post regular ESO content, builds, guys, all that good stuff. And before I sign off, I want to say a massive thank you to all of the Patreons. They obviously really help the website, they help obviously the channel going, and obviously without them, it'll be obviously harder to do YouTube. So I really appreciate your support. And with that said, guys, I will catch you in the next one. So take care. Dan signing off, and bye.